వాళ్ళు క్లాస్ అయితే వింటారు, వాళ్ళ పిల్లలకి చెప్తారు.
Okay, okay, let's do this.
Okay.
I
Okay, in today's class, I'm going to explain JavaScript. So JavaScript mostly, as I told you, that this is the mostly used web programming language. First of all, I told you that whenever if you want to become a good programmer, means web developer, you must be aware of three languages: HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Three languages must be aware of. So in JavaScript, today we will try to understand the JavaScript errors. Okay. What are JavaScript? Not only occurred in JavaScript, in any programming languages, it may be any C, C++, Java, Python, any programming languages. Once we write the coding, at the time of compilation and execution, errors will be occurred. Okay. So that moment, these errors to be handled by the programmer. Okay. So as I told you that these all are free classes and the classes will be conducted thrice of a week, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, sharply at 8 p.m. in June, to enhance the coding skills in the students who are residing in the rural areas, who are totally aware of network centers. Okay. So I hope that these classes will be so useful to all of you. And the class link, Zoom class link, that is a permanent link shared in all my social media platforms, in WhatsApp groups and Facebook, Twitter, and the class link that was shared to all of you. And you can come into my classes and you can learn the coding knowledge. Okay. And it is not restricted to students. Anybody can learn the coding skills irrespective of any age limits and trade proficiency. Okay, irrespective of any category. Okay, just you requirement is your interest and passion. Okay, anybody can learn the programming. So let us start the class today. JavaScript errors. All these classes, they are being conducted under my Lakshmi Narayan Krishna Foundation. Okay, so JavaScript errors will happen. Errors will happen when executing JavaScript code. As I told you that whenever we execute the code, means execute means run the code in any language, Python, Java, C, C++, C Sharp, any language. So whenever code is being executed, that moment different errors occur. So these errors made by the programmer means we have written the code. So they are called coding errors. Okay, done by the programmer, because whenever you write the code, that moment by mistaken, intentionally, unintentionally, you will write the errors, you will write the mistakes in the code. They are called errors due to your coding wrong input. Okay. So how many types of errors in the JavaScript? Let us see. Reference errors, type errors, range errors, URI errors, syntax errors, evaluation errors. So like that, so many are there. So first of all, suppose if any error is there, how to handle JavaScript errors? In JavaScript, try, catch, black statements, they will be used to handle the errors. Try and catch blocks will be used to handle the errors. Try block. Okay, under try block means try is a statement. Okay, within that statement will be used to keep our code, okay, which is to be tested for errors. If you feel that any line of code that is to be tested for errors, so you need to keep that line of code under try block. So try statement allows us to define a block of code to be tested for errors whenever it is being executed. Catch statement. under catch block, we need to define a block of code that is to be executed if any error occurs. So if any error occurs in the try block, means in try block, whatever the line of statement kept for testing, if any error occurs in that line of code, that moment, one more statement we need to keep in catch block, so that if error occurs, this line of code kept in catch block that will be executed. Okay. So these called try and catch pairs. So now let us write the code for this situation. Let us try to understand the first reference errors are what? A reference error occurs when if we use a variable, that variable, if it doesn't exist. Suppose you want to use a variable which is not present in your programming. So that moment, it will give the error like that. It is a reference error. Why? Because it is reference error. Whenever you write a variable, okay, that variable can be used in your programming. But if you want to use a variable which is not part of your programming, that moment it will give error. That is called a reference error. That is called a reference error. So a reference error occurs if you use a variable that doesn't exist. That is called a reference error. Okay. So example, what you know, suppose see, f name, you have created a variable. That variable is assigned with a value. We have studied different data types in the programming JavaScript. So one variable f name is created and that is assigned to a value foo. But this foo is not defined. That moment you will get the error like foo is not defined. Why? Because foo, it is what? It is English like statement, English like characters it has. So it is to be defined as a string. So string to be defined in double quotes. So we have not done it. So that's why it will indicate that foo is not defined. So that moment, one more reference error, see how it happens. Let x is equal to y is equal to 5. So x is equal to y is equal to 5. So one variable x created with the let keyword and x is equal to y. We have written an expression that is what? X equal to y. X is equal to y. So that moment we can't access y before initialization. If I want to access this y, so we can't access y before initialization. So let us see this code. We can't use the non-existing variable. See how this code, we need to try to understand in JavaScript how. So as I told you that this is the code initially, the code written for this two statements. This is the part of your HTML hypertext markup language. These three statements, this part of your HTML hypertext markup language. This is the header. Okay. This is the second header, paragraph. And inside of this header element, the content, whatever we have written, that will be displayed on the screen, JavaScript errors. And this is the content written inside of your one more header element. So that will be displayed on the screen. So under the paragraph element, inside of paragraph element, whatever the content written inside of this paragraph element, that will be displayed on the screen. So I told you that in programming of HTML, every element has two tags. Header H1 element has two tags, start tag and end tag. Every element started with start tag must be closed with end tag. This is the one more element, header 2 element, and closed with the end tag. And inside of this is called content that will be displayed. And paragraph element started and paragraph element closed. This is the content that will be displayed on the screen. Now let us see. Our topic is what? Reference error. How to handle that? Reference error is what, the variable, whatever you want to use, that variable is not declared. Okay, but you want to use that variable. See, let us see. This is the code written inside of the script. This is the JavaScript code from here to here. Always JavaScript code that is to be written inside of the script tags. Script tags. This is the script start tag. This is the script end tag. Inside of this, whatever the code you have written, that is called your JavaScript code. And this code will be read by your browser. Any browser, it may be Internet Explorer, Mozilla Firefox, Microsoft Edge, even though Google Chrome. All these browsers will read the code which is written inside of your HTML, the HTML code, the total code written in a HTML document. So I told you that every web page is a document. Every web page is a document. Inside of that HTML web page document, so the code, whatever we write, that will be read by your browser. Okay. Now see, under the script, the code written for JavaScript. So here X is a variable that is declared with let keyword. I told you that in JavaScript, at the time of declaring any variable, three keywords will be used. Key, that is what, where, constant, let. So here let variable used to create a variable X, and the X variable assigned with a value 5. Now it is terminated. This is the syntax. Now try block, I told you that try block means in these parentheses, whatever the code we write, that is kept for error checking. If you feel that this line of code it gives errors, that moment it is to be kept inside of the try block. Here X is equal to Y plus 1. Problem is what, you have defined X with a value 5, but Y you have not declared. So surely it will give error, it generate errors. Why? Because here you want to use such a variable which is not defined, but X is defined, but you have not defined here Y. Let Y is equal to something 8 and terminated with the semicolon. So this is okay, because for these two variables X, Y, you can use this statement very happily. Why? Because X is declared with defined with 5 value, Y is defined with the 8 value. Then there is no any problem for you. X is equal to Y plus 1. X is equal to Y plus 1. But if you keep this line of code under comments, so this line of code is under comment means let Y is equal to 8, it will not be read by your browser. So that is skipped. So only X variable defined with the value 5. So X is equal to Y plus 1 means you want X is equal to Y plus 1. There is no any Y variable. Y variable is kept under comments. So that moment, surely this line of code raises an error. So that moment you need to handle that error by a statement that is to be written inside of your catch block. So here catch block, it is to be syntax is like you need to write catch inside of this error. It is a variable which will hold the messages, what message? Error messages. So we need to create a variable, any variable. Here variable text created with let keyword is equal to err dot name. Name is what? Which type of that error type name. I told you that how many types of errors, so many types of errors I have. I have brief video, all that errors. Okay. I have briefed so many reference errors like that. Okay. So that error name will be displayed here, displayed as reference error and message. That error message, why is not defined. So whenever we pass this variable to this inner HTML attribute, whenever we pass that variable, so that error name and message will be displayed. So then after what happens? Then after means this catch block used here to handle the errors. Okay, these errors will be displayed and the code will not be crashed. And then after, if any code is there, that code will be executed. Okay, so now let us practice this total code one by one. How to execute this total code? We will practice that. Okay, so I am going to erase all this code. Okay, so I am erasing all this code. Now your code window is empty and your result window is empty. Write that code now. So this is, as I told you, that this is the code that is it is a reference related to HTML code. So HTML. So see, this line of statement indicates that this is a document of this is a document of a web page and HTML related to HTML language, hypertext markup language version 5. This statement indicates that. Next, you need to write HTML. You need to start with HTML start tag. Everything is element. This is an HTML element started with start tag. So once it is started, it is to be closed with same HTML. So now HTML, this is called one element. One element has two tags, start and end. So, okay. Now this is called one element. Inside of this, we need to use that body section, body element. You need to start with body element. Okay. Now come down. You need to come with body. Okay. See here. So what happened here? Body. This is the body element started, and body element closed. Okay. Now inside of this, whatever the code you write, that will be displayed, that will be read by your browser, any browser, Mozilla Firefox, Internet Explorer, Microsoft Edge, and your Google Chrome, any browser that will read this line of code inside of this, and that will be displayed on the screen. So now come to here. Let us see, as I told you that, first of all, we need to write one header. Header is very important. So header indicates that what, which type of main your class topic is what. So here, whatever we write, that is a content of a header. So topic is what? Handling of errors. Handling of errors. Okay. Handling of errors means how to handle errors. How to handle errors. Okay. Very important. Huh? Handling of errors or how to handle errors. Handling of errors, how to handling of errors. Okay, everything is okay. Now, whenever you click on here, that will be displayed on the screen. So next is what? Next, one more, if you write paragraph, you can write a paragraph, you can create subheading like what you know. So here, this is what you know, use use of try catch, try and catch blocks, try and catch blocks to handle errors. Okay. Now it is to be this paragraph to be closed with the paragraph element. Now if you run this code, so use of try and catch blocks to handle errors. Okay. So now see, up to this, the code, whatever we have written, up to here, this is part of your, up to here, this is part of your HTML, hypertext markup language. Then after, if you want to use, as I told you that HTML is a language which will be used to design your web page. You want to make a structure of your web page. So, and CSS cascading style sheet will be used to um, how the web page looks. Okay, how it appears, how it looks. So that appearance, styling of the web page, color, background color, font color, anything if you want to do for that moment, CSS will be used. If you want, or if you want to write the code for any CSS cascading style sheet, you need to write the code inside of these style element. Okay, style element. Okay, understood that. So see what happened here. Okay, inside of this, inside of this, whatever the code we will write here, inside of this, whatever the code we will write here, okay, that will be styled of, that will be styled, that will be styled your any element, anything on the screen. Suppose if you want to style this element, this is what header element content. You can style if you want to color this one, if you want to color this one. So here you need to select this first. This is the content of what? This is the content of what? This is the content of your header element. So first of all, by that header element, this is called selector. Okay. So by this selector, this header element will be selected. And then after, if you want to make color, 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 next, color is a attribute. Okay. And value we need to pass. Suppose light blue, otherwise red. Okay. Now, whenever you run this, see what happened? H1, this H1 selected and it is colored. It is colored. Okay. So now this is if you want to make alignment of this. Okay. Alignment, text, text align, text align. Okay. Now value to be passed as text align center, left, right, center. Okay. Now, whenever you run, so it is not executed. Means what you know, one attribute is assigned with a value, one more attribute assigned with a value. That moment you need to keep separation. Like what you know, now this key and value, one pair of this is separated with another pair. Okay, by semicolon. Now when you run this, that moment what happened? Try to understand. This is what this header H1 is selected with this H1 and colored with the red and aligned to center. If you want to align for right side alignment, so you need to write like this, right. Okay. So if you want to change one more, if you want to write one more attribute, that is what font, okay, hyphen size. Okay. That is called what? How many type of, how much of size you want to give? 20 pixels. Size always you run this. So see, its size is decreased for 20 pixels. If you increase this to 50 pixels, okay, increased, okay, like this. So decrease the pixel size, 20 pixel. So this is the header. And it is it is text aligned to right side. If you want to align to left side, so here you need to write left side. Okay. Okay, left. If you want to change the color, you need to change the color, like whatever the color. If you want to give light blue, okay, you run. light blue, but it is not looking well. So you change this color to blue only. Okay, blue, otherwise orange. Okay. So this is the only you have selected this header H1, okay, and colored with blue and align to left side alignment and font size pixel 20 pixel. Okay, like this. This is the one type of styling of your web page by using a cascading style sheet. This is called a cascading style sheet. Okay. Under the cascading style sheet language, you write like this. You want to select the total web page. So for this word, body selector, body selector, body selector. By this body, the total web page body will be selected. So inside of this, if you want to give collector as background color, background hyphen color, okay. What color you want to give for the background? Orange color, suppose. Okay. You run this code. Now background will be colored with the orange color. So this total code written inside of your style element. Inside of your style element. This is the code we can say CSS code. So CSS is used for cascading style sheet. Language will be used for to style your web page. Style all the elements of the web page. It may be header, paragraph. Okay, all that elements will be styled. All that elements will be styled. Okay. Now, if you want to keep any button over this, if you want to keep any button, so you need to create a button element here. Button element, okay, and button element to be closed. Button element to be closed. Now inside of this button, we need to say whenever, see what happened here, a button is created. A button is created. So if you want to keep any content over this button, you need to write click over me. Click over me. So now see, click over me. One button is that is displayed on the screen, and one content, one message that is displayed on the this button. So whenever we click on this button, something that is to be happened, something to be happened. Okay. So button created. So whenever we click on that button, that is called event. Every click is called event. So that event is called on click. On click, on click of, on click of this button. That moment, what is to be done? Whenever we click on that button, something that is to be displayed. Something that is to be displayed. If suppose, if I click on this button, that is to be displayed. See, document dot one code I am going to write here. That moment, what happened? Get element, get element by ID, ID method. This is the mostly used JavaScript HTML method to find the HTML content. Okay, suppose if I want to find out this element of the this element and this content to be changed. Okay, that moment here I need to pass a value. That value must be wherever you cube ID attribute. One attribute, ID attribute, that is ID attribute, it will be passed with a value. Okay, that is very important. Huh? Suppose this value can be any of. Here, just I have passed my name as a value. Now, this value passed to this ID attribute kept in inside of the paragraph element P element. Now, this value to be passed for this get element by ID method. this method is the mostly used method. Generally, simply this method will be used for your display. In Python, simply we will write Python print. In JavaScript, Java, it is called system.out.println method. Here, this method will display the content. Inner HTML, inner HTML. Here, this is to be passed to a value like I love India. I love India. This is a okay. Now, see. So now what happened? Whenever we click on this button, this because of no, whenever we click on this button, that is a event, most click event. Whenever you click on this, by this method will display I love India. This statement will be displayed in the place of wherever we have kept this value kept inside of this p element. For this in place of this value I love India, that will be displayed on the screen. Let us see. So nothing is being done here, nothing is done. So that moment what we need to check back that whether which type of any errors in our code, whether I have written any errors, I need to check back that whether any syntax. What I told you that generally, what I told you that whenever you have written any code, that moment if your code is not being executed properly and you are getting any errors, that moment you need to be very cool, not to be very panic, not to be worry about that code. My code is not executed. So very patiently, you need to go through the code and try to check back the errors in a proper, cool manner. If you get tense of yourself and that you means that errors may not be find out. Okay, that is the main point I want to say. Okay, here see, whenever I click on this button, so whenever I click on this button, this line of code to be changed and I love my India, this line to be displayed. So whenever I click on, it is not executed. So I need to check back. I need to check back that. So try to see what is going on here. So this is the your to this is the header element content written inside of the header element, and this is the content written inside of your paragraph element, and this element being identified by this id attribute and value passed. So your this method get element by id method, it will find out that html element by this attribute we have passed the value also. So wherever this value is there, it is, so this method is a simple print method. Mostly we can simply say that this get element by id method, it is the print method. Okay, in this method name get element means find out that element of html by id. id value passed here as a parameter. This value, this method looks where it finds here. So this is written inside of your paragraph element. So this paragraph element content is what this. So this will be replaced with the value kept assigned for this inner HTML. So see, okay, whenever you click over here, click, so I love India. In place of your use of try and catch blocks, this I love India is displayed. So why, before what the mistake, simple mistake, syntax errors. This semicolon I have not mentioned. If you have left this semicolon, see what happened. still you are getting, okay, if this semicolon. But one more small error, what we have done here, that is what, okay. So, okay. So without keeping of your any, even though this semicolon, if it is, you have not kept, there is no any problem. So the code, this is, this is, it is being displayed on the screen. Okay. So one web page, I try to, explain, but here point is what, handling of errors, handling of errors. So handling of errors, that is part of your JavaScript. Okay. That is part of your JavaScript. So for JavaScript, you need to write the code like what, under the script. JavaScript code always that is to be written inside of this script element. Script element. Okay. Script element started and script element closed. Script element. Okay. Now inside of this, whatever the code we write, that is part of your JavaScript. So I told you that in JavaScript, our topic is handling of errors. Handling of errors. How to handle errors. So first of all, I told you that try catch blocks will be used. So here try block means flower braces. Inside of this, we need to keep that statement, which will you feel that there is an error will occur. So what generally, suppose if I have created a variable with let keyword x is equal to 5 and it is assigned with a value. Now here, if I want to use as uh, x plus y, x plus y plus 1. Okay. Now here, what happened? X is a variable already you have defined with a variable 5, but y is not. Y variable, it is not defined here. There is no any y variable. So that moment, generally, this statement raises an error. So that moment, what happened? If you run this code, okay, for this statement, surely error occurs. That moment, you need to use one more black, that is catch block. Okay, inside of this. Okay, here one variable we need to define, we need to write, that is error variable. This is a variable which will hold all that. This variable will keep all the errors, name of errors, error message. Okay, so here I need to write one variable, so that is to be created text. Suppose any variable name, it is a empty variable. Okay, it is an empty variable. So this variable will hold all that. This variable will hold all that error names and messages. Okay. So now here we need to say what error dot error means. This is a variable which will, if any error occurs, that error name will, that will be that will be stored in this variable. Okay, error dot name plus error dot message. Okay. Now we will use that message document. This is the document get element by id method. So I told you that this element, get element by id method must be passed with a attribute value. Where is that attribute value? This is okay. That is what Vasu. Okay. And then after inner the HTML, it is to be passed with what? It is to be passed with this text, because it will hold, this text will hold all that error name and error message. Okay. So why this document dot get element by ID? It is the previously predefined method of your JavaScript, mostly used HTML method to find any element with this value. So this is the inner HTML attribute which will be used to display the content, HTML content. This method used to find out the HTML element with this value. Okay. Now this document, why I have written this total method is, this method is part of your web document, HTML document. So that's why document I have written here. Same thing also I have written this code also I have written here to display I love India in place of this content. Okay. So now myself, one is that surely this statement will raise an error. That error name I want to get name and a message, error message, whatever the error message generated, that is to be displayed on the screen. That is my intention. Code is written like this. So if this code is not executed, so that moment don't panic yourself. First of all, the code, one logic you have generated. Logic is what you know, one variable created with the let keyword. Okay. And inside of this try block, one statement I have kept. I told you that while I was teaching about try catch blocks, how to handle errors. So first of all, we need to keep that statement. You feel that in that statement, errors may be generated, surely generated, because X is a variable created, but Y is not defined. Surely you will get the name errors. Okay. So, and inside of this catch block, we need to keep a message which will handle the errors, Okay. So let us see what happened here. Nothing we are getting here. So we need to check back wherever the error is there. So let us see actually what is going on here. So this is a statement, one statement we have written. So it is to be terminated with the semicolon. That is very important. Okay. And then next, inside of this, that let text. Okay. This variable, okay. This, you cut this variable and you paste here is equal to, what do you mean of this? Whatever the error name generated and that message, error message, they will be stored in this variable let text. Okay. And error name here, okay, you terminate this semicolon. Now this text is holding the error name and message name. So I have passed to this inner HTML. Run this code. So I love India. We are getting this one. But so this is the we are getting what? Reference error. This is the error name, okay? And message y is not defined. Surely, whenever we want x is equal to y plus 1, so y is not defined. Like this also, if you keep like this also, x plus y plus 1, the same, okay? X plus y plus 1, like that. So here, the mistake, little bit of mistake, what we did here, if I error dot name, then after plus, and this is for what, this is for your line break. If I have not given like this, what happened? Both will be mingled. Okay. Error name and error message. So that moment, if I want to give a break, line break, inside of this, I need to keep break, br. Okay. So why here I need to give the plus, one more plus. Okay. Error name, this quote we need to keep outside of this. Okay. Okay. Now run. You will get the error name and error message. So see what happened. This plus, no, because error dot name. So error dot name means which type of error? It is reference error. Why? Because you want to use this y variable, but you have not defined here. Only x is defined. So that is y is not defined and it is a reference error. Reference error means that the reference variable, whatever you are referring here, this variable is not defined. Understood that. So mistake it was this plus, little bit of, these are called syntax errors. If you miss any plus, okay, any colon, semicolon, if you have not kept and you have not passed this is what your value, attribute value that is defined here. If you have missed this one, if you have missed, you will not get anything. See, because this method, it generally this method need of a value, attribute value. That attribute is ID attribute value. So already this method, predefined method, it will be used to find out the HTML element with this ID attribute value. That value is equal to what? So, okay. Now, so whenever you will get this one. For this inner HTML, this is an attribute which will be used to find the content, HTML content. Content is what in this text variable. Text variable is a variable created in catch block, and this text variable is holding that name of the error. Okay. This variable here, ERR means error variable that will hold the name of the error and break, line break we have given, then message, which type of error message generated, why is not defined. So like this, we can create what? We can create we can handle the errors. So here that moment one button created, that is button element. So inside of this button, click over me and button closed. Okay. Now whenever we click on here, a button is displayed. So if you click over this button, if this button, so on click, you need to write an event on click. Okay. On click, what happened? On click, what happened? So we can keep this is inside of your